Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode. You know, I've got a lot of new flight data that I've been pulling off of flight trackers and flight radar over the last, 13, 14 hours. I stayed up until about midnight last night analyzing every single flight. With the NOTAMs that shut down airspace over New Mexico yesterday, I think it left a lot of people wondering what the heck is actually going on. Is the U.S. actually under attack? Or do we have threats that are taking place? And it's not like anybody trusts the United States government anymore. And I can tell you, after looking at all the flight data that I've poured through, which we're going to go over today, I don't trust the United States government to tell me that the DHS utilized a special military laser to shoot down a freaking party balloon somewhere over, Texas or New Mexico, and that it's since been confirmed it was just a party balloon. They were very confused, because drones cross back and forth across that border every single day. And that's a pretty dang crazy measure for them to take. Not to mention, in the NOTAMs that they issued, they were saying that they were going to use lethal force in order to enforce those temporary flight restrictions. So what was really going on? Today, I'm going to give you guys a rundown, and we're going to go work our way backwards first. And I've got things such as Apache helicopters that were over in the area. I've got things such as, I don't know, random military / government helicopters that have been flying over in this area. I've got a random helicopter that just decided to appear and disappear right into the area when the NOTAMs happened. And I've reached out to the company for a response, because it certainly appears as if that flight data has been completely and totally altered. Now, there is always a variance in flight data from time to time, but they're generally speaking pretty accurate. But what's been taking place over here inside of this area, I think, is something that U.S. citizens need to pay a little bit more attention to. I'm not quite so sure that the U.S. government didn't just lie to us yesterday. Well, at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, I feel like we were being told the truth, because at the beginning of the day, that's when we were getting told what was actually taking place. We were being told that, we had... how do you want to say this? We were being told that we had shot down a freaking aircraft, right? That there was a reason for us doing what we did, that we ended up shooting down an aircraft, a drone, and that it was because of national security reasons. And then they ended up changing kind of a little bit of everything as it came out. That blows my mind. And just to give you an idea, I'm going to play this news clip, because I think transparency is important of showing how it started versus how it ended.
As you mentioned there, this big closure stemmed from the Pentagon's plans to actually test out a laser that they would be using to take out Mexican drug cartel drones at the southern border and other places. That's according to the Associated Press. So the Pentagon apparently wanted to test out this laser despite having a meeting slated for later this month to discuss the issue. So here's what happened. Late last night, the Federal Aviation Administration issued a temporary flight restriction that would have halted all flights to and from El Paso International Airport for 10 days. They cited, quote, special security reasons. Now, the order covered commercial, cargo, and general aviation flights and extended over roughly a 10 nautical mile radius around the airport. But just hours later, federal officials reversed course, reopening the airport, lifting that closure early. In a post on X, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy saying in part, quote, the FAA and DOW acted swiftly to address a cartel drone incursion. The threat has been neutralized, and there is no danger to commercial travel in the region.
All right, so let's take a quick pause here. So far, we've heard multiple different stories. We've heard the United States military wanted to test out a laser, and it was a training operation. We have Secretary Sean Duffy saying that the Department of War acted swiftly to address a cartel drone incursion. We had numerous members of the media, and I mean numerous members of the media, that reached out to their points of contact at the White House, trying to identify and ask what was actually going on over there. I pointed this out yesterday. I saw it on News Nation, was the first one to report that it was a cartel drone incursion. Then you saw Sean Duffy come out saying it was a cartel drone incursion. We've got Brianna that says an administration official tells her that it was shut down due to Mexican cartel drones breached U.S. airspace. So the real question is, what the hell's going on? Because that's a pretty serious allegation for things to come through. And then yesterday afternoon, we get this. U.S. military shot down a party balloon near El Paso after drone suspicion. All of the amazing technology that we have, all of the great things I'm about to show you guys today. And yesterday afternoon, they come out with a party balloon. And this, by the way, is after them coming out with a statement saying that we gave our special military laser over to DHS last month and authorized use for them, and they were the ones that made the mess up. So I'm on 4 or 5 different stories about what actually took place yesterday. Incog Faraday came in and gifted out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to know if you guys, just based off of this, what we have so far, if we actually believe them. Curly Hair Jew says, what do you think about the idea of the U.S. using the World War II Ghost Army inflatable ideas to screw with the Chinese satellites watching our bases? I mean, yes, that wouldn't be a bad idea at all. However, as I've noted before, crossing from Mexico into California, it's been noted on congressional record that the Chinese have infiltrated the United States of America, members of the CCP, with instructions to recruit as many spies as humanly possible to spy on U.S. bases. And when you start talking about like human intelligence sources, then our inflatables don't really matter. U.S. military bases have so many contractors on them, and I mean tons of civilian contractors, and they work for tons of different companies. There's construction going on. There's, crikey. The CIF, the Central Issuing Facility, right? Where you just have civilians handing out uniforms that service members hate and different pieces of equipment that they never use. They just give them a hard time. You got all of these different things going on these bases that give people different access. So I really don't know if that would be as applicable today with the weakness in our border security. Fox McCloud says, it's top secret when they're telling you the exact weapon they used. Well, here's the problem is members of the media texted and reached out. This is how it works. If I've got a question and I know somebody that works for a particular office that has access to certain information, I will text my buddy and say, hey, what do you know about this? And they give me that one-liner. And when I see those same types of information coming from, multiple different news agencies, mainstream ones of credible reporters, that they get told it was a cartel drone incursion, then it actually makes me start wondering why all of a sudden that narrative switched. Now, information passes pretty quick, but I want you guys to understand that NOTAMs actually went into effect, or the temporary flight restrictions, all of that went to effect, not yesterday, on the 11th. All right. That's when this stuff was posted, but it was actually the 10th. That I think it was 2300-ish at night, or 11 p.m. All right. And I'm going to show you some flights and stuff coming up here in just a little bit that is going to make your head explode. Now, luckily, I'm not the only one whose head exploded on this, and nor do I think all of this started on the 10th, and I'm going to explain to you guys why here in just a sec. I want to give you another take. There's another perspective of somebody else that's not buying into the crap.
Ago, November 2025, this happened in Hudspeth County. That's about 70 miles east of El Paso over Fort Bliss training ranges. Same pattern. Airspace closure, emergency response, lifted quickly. Congressman mentioned it in passing. Zero news coverage, complete memory hole. December 2023, Langley Air Force Base, responsible for protecting Washington, D.C.'s airspace. Drones swarm for weeks. Pentagon couldn't stop them, so they had to relocate an entire wing of F-22 fighters to another base. Made the news briefly, then forgotten.
On a rural farm in Colorado, bizarre lights in the night sky. This
is my point. We've had an issue with drones. We've had an issue with all of this stuff taking part in the United States of America. And at first, I'm sitting around trying to figure out what the hell was going on and why would we be having these issues on our border. There's lots of rumors that, United States government's operating down over inside of Mexico, doing Sicario type stuff, and we pissed off the cartels. And that very well may be a possibility. One of y'all ended up sending me this article this morning, and I'm greatly appreciative for it. They thought they were untouchable. U.S. seizes 134 acres in Texas used by the Mexican cartel. The date of this article is yesterday, February 11th at 8 p.m. More than 134 acres in Texas that were being used by the drug cartel for smuggling activities has been taken over by U.S. authorities, Customs and Border Patrol, according to CBP on February 10th. On February 10th, hours before This alleged attack took place. CBP ended up taking over 134 acres along the Texas border. Now, it's very far away. It's not close to the site that we're talking about, but it's pretty far away. And it says, "We took the land and everything on it," says the Post. Video shared with the Post showed law enforcement officers arresting several people. They thought they were untouchable. They were wrong. Over 134 acres of land and property taken from the West Side Gulf Cartel, a terrorist organization operating near Rio Grande City. Again, Rio Grande City is pretty far away. And the one thing that really stood out in my mind about this is right here. Let me zoom in. Hopefully you guys can see this. In a message to the cartels, CBP said, "You think this is just about arrests? It is not. We are dismantling your operations from the ground up. We are cutting out your safe houses, your staging areas, your corridors." Followed by, "This is your warning." The day going into the night, so the day, February 10th, going into yesterday, the 11th, on that day, on the 10th, we seized all of this property, almost 150 acres from the cartels along the border. And we gave them a warning, literally said, "This is your warning." Now, that within itself is pretty suspicious. Other option that I ended up bringing up and talking about with yesterday was because Hezbollah was working with Maduro, and because Maduro was giving out diplomatic passports, and because they were all working together with the cartels down over inside of Mexico, could it have been Hezbollah that was coming after us? I'm going to show you something here in just a minute that's going to make you go, "Oh, crap." Because the U.S. has held off on striking Iran for an unbelievable amount of time, as far as I'm concerned. Why we haven't gone in and blasted those little bastards to hell yet, I'm not sure. And I see the comment section, not a flat earther, not even remotely close. I like to stick with facts. I like to stick with information. And I like to present certain things and show you guys where it's at. Now, it's enough that Sean Duffy had ended up stating that the Department of War ended up going over and taking action against a cartel drone, right? And then we retract and we say it's not a cartel drone, it's a party balloon. And we shut down airspace from El Paso, a city with over like 1 million freaking inhabitants, and ended up issuing a NOTAMs out to the side of it, which is what I'm going to show you guys in a little bit. But we also had the Department of War, the Undersecretary for the Department of War for the Research and Engineering ended up posting this out at 8 a.m. yesterday morning. "Defend the homeland with a laser shooting down drones behind an eagle." So it certainly seems to me like the guy that was behind research and engineering was super proud of the work that he did and super proud of the work that their people did in shooting down a cartel drone. And that was the narrative that was being put out by officials in the administration to major mainstream media outlets. And then it switched to CBP. Then it switched to, "We accidentally shot down a balloon. We confirmed it was a balloon." So the first question I'd have for you, I don't know if you guys have seen these freaking lasers at work. Maybe I ought to pull up a video for one and show it to you. Israel's got very similar technology, and they have released their lasers shooting down these suckers. And when they shoot that freaking laser out, it is on target for a matter of freaking, I don't know, like 10 seconds or so. And it's just sitting there burning a hole in it. Let me see if I can actually find the video of it. But there's test videos of this stuff that have been actually released. And there's videos that actually show, these things like actively targeting and shooting down drones up over the area. And that laser is on it for a hot freaking second as it's burning holes in there. Here we go. Let me see. This is showing, all right up here on your screen. You show it targeting the wing to give you an idea of how stupid this narrative is, that they didn't know it was a freaking balloon. And I'd be shocked if we weren't working with Israel on this technology. And look how precise and accurate it is as we start to go. This is the wing of a drone that Israel's shooting down. And you can see it literally burning the frickin' wing and targeting it. Now, I want you to picture this level of technology pointed at a freaking balloon. How quickly that sucker would pop and fall out of the sky. Not to mention how overly obvious it would be that it was a party balloon. Did you guys see this? Am I the only one that sees it? That laser stays on these freaking drones and just burns the crap out of them. And it's very obvious at what they're shooting. They just don't shoot at random party balloons for target practice. That's asinine. This is what that technology looks like, ladies and gentlemen. And I'd bet that the United States, if it doesn't have the exact same tech that you're seeing here in this video, it would be extremely freaking similar. So for us to sit there and scream, it was a party balloon, is beyond me. Now, as I told you guys, those NOTAMs, they came out at a specific time, all right? And it covered about 0100 hours. For dang sure, covered 0100 hours on that morning. I ended up finding this flight. This is the company that I ended up reaching out to, asking for more information. I am not saying that they're guilty of anything, just saying that this is extremely suspect. Given the date time group that is given here on Flight Radar, this is actually adsbxexchange.com. They do a really good job, allow you to go back several days and check out what's actually going on throughout the area, right? This is what shows you all of this crap and what's going down there. Now, I've frozen it at this hour. Down at the bottom of the screen, it shows it is 0800 UTC or Central Standard Time 0200 or 0203. We can actually rewind it by the minutes. Now, here's the craziest thing about this. When I rewind the clock to about 01 and I put my playback speed, you guys are going to watch this sucker come in and appear as I hit play, right? You're going to see this is, again, the NOTAMs is supposedly in effect, right? You got airplanes and stuff. They're flying over El Paso. We do have a helicopter that's cruising around up here. We have some that are coming out. This is north of it. Doesn't mean anything. This is a random helicopter taking out. There's a regional airport that's up here. But as we start getting closer to that time frame, I'm going to pause it. This helicopter appears out of nowhere on the radar. It just pops up over there. And it continues to fly. And it's going. And this is heading directly towards the NOTAMs area. Now, I'll remind you that there was 2 separate NOTAMs that got issued. And I want to show you. This is flying at, it shows the barometric altitude at 5,600 feet. And it's flying over the Oregon Mountains Desert Peaks National Region. If I go back to the original NOTAMs, data and stuff that had been issued and put it up on the screen for you guys, that's this area right over here. Okay, so presumably it's hard to tell, but it looks like it's traveling either just to the north of it or inside of it. Not 100% sure, to be perfectly honest with you. Could be traveling just to the north of it. As it continues to play, all of a sudden, it just stops. And there is no data. So it appears out of nowhere, is spotty. So whether it flicked its transponder on, I don't know. Now, here's the interesting thing. You look at the flight activity, and it doesn't show you anything. Nothing. It says all times UTC, no flights found underneath flight activity. You go to the full details of this particular flight or this particular registration number. And as you go down, you are going to see something. One, that is operated by Air Methods LLC. They are a medical company. Looks like they do have government contracts. They fly medical helicopters and things like that throughout the area. They're often seen landing over at the hospital that's over inside of El Paso, picking people up. It definitely appears like they're doing a lot of very good work. So I reached out to the company. I asked them specifically, I sent them an email this morning. I asked them whether or not they can verify that this helicopter belongs to them. I asked them whether or not they could verify this flight data and flight information. Because as I showed you guys, right, on the flight radar, the thing that I find extremely suspect is that this flight, all right, that's going up over into that region, right, February 11th, 2026, time UTC 10:20, and it shows it over Santa Teresa. At 10:20, that was where it says it took off at. Takeoff. Landing, it's got nothing for it. but it says at 10:20 UTC. So let's close that. Because if we were to go back to 10:20 UTC, it's gone, and it's 8 o'clock UTC, and we hit play, 08 UTC, and wait till it appears. My Lord. The amount of crap that I had to look at to find this, the amount of radar that I was watching, ladies and gentlemen. It's rolling 8:45 UTC. And we are pushing into 0900 UTC. Now we're at 0900 UTC. Should be popping up in just a sec. And Bob's your uncle. Come on, get out here. And here she is. Just a second. Well, weird. Now it doesn't want to show up. I don't think so. So there's 10 o'clock UTC, and we were hours prior to it. Nowhere around, right? 10:15, 10:20. We have tail number N87LF. Flight activity and history. There you have it. Now, all of a sudden, it's back up on our radar. And now we're actually starting to get more data. And I'm wondering if it's because I sent that email off over this morning because this didn't appear earlier. It just wasn't there. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I sure as hell didn't see it. Apparently, it went into the area and it's on its way back out. Flight activity. Look at that. It's actually updating in real time. Flight activity. Time, 10:25 Zulu. Well, that's odd because it definitely wasn't there a couple minutes ago. So as we sit here and watch, it continues to update and do some weird crap. I pause it. I mean, there's nobody over there. When did it appear? Somewhere around here? Maybe a little bit later? We're playing it. Oh, now you want to give me crap. There she is. Coming back. So let's rewind the clock a little bit. $10 o'clock, we got nothing. You see other aircraft overhead. Now, the images that I have from last night show the flight data for this particular aircraft. And I have it on radar at 0800 UTC coming into this area. And whenever it appears, so let's go to 0800 UTC, 0804. Play. And there she is. Why are you giving me Vegas.com crap? For the love of God, stop it. For the love of God, stop it. There we go. So, 0800 UTC, the dang thing appears. We are, I think, Central Standard Time. It's looking at 02. That's over there. Still shows no flight activity. You click on the full details of it. And again, it says UTC when it took off was 10:20. So this is conflicting flight data to where inside this flight data, it says it takes off from Santa Teresa at 10:20. And here we have it coming out of Santa Teresa at 08 UTC, 2 hours before. It shows up on the map coming out of Santa Teresa. That within itself is a bit troubling. Now, I also noticed something else when it goes down into it, and this goes down into the days prior. So that was the event in the night of. me back out of this real quick. There was something else that was happening on the border the night prior that I got to show you guys. You open up the data on this one so that I can reference it and pull it up to show you. This is on what I'm pulling up. If you guys want to look it up, I'm going to air it out for you. This is on the 10th at 0100 or 0845 UTC. So this is overnight on the 10th. See if I can get it to update. Here is the 10th. I believe we are at the right time frame. And there's something else on this map that you guys are going to notice. As we zoom in and we take a look around El Paso, so this is exactly 24 hours prior to the alleged attack taking place. I want you to take a look at this helicopter right here. It leaves Biggs Army Airfield, and this is a United States military EC-145. These things are often used in life flight operations, things like that, but apparently the military has them for border control concerns, I suppose. So this is it the night prior. But I want you to look at where they're flying and how long they've been flying. When we look at the flight details of this sucker, let's close that out. That one's harder to see. When we look at the flight details of that guy, oh, he went away. There we go. And look at the activity for this particular flight. At this point in time, he's up for 2 hours. So this guy leaves and he starts patrolling the border for 2 hours. And at the same time, we have this helicopter over here. Now, you guys remember how there was another NOTAMs that got issued yesterday. It wasn't just the restricted flight activity over the regional airport. There's also restricted flight activity over this region as well. And we have the same helicopter registered to the United States military flying out and conducting patrols from Biggs Army Airfield, going up and freaking patrolling this border region. So you have overlapping coverage of these guys searching the border left and right. They're worried about something. You got El Paso right here. You've got these guys right here, and you got these birds that are up in the sky. Now, we can look up these helicopters. I can tell you all sorts of crap about them. But the point being that this is 24 hours, almost on the freaking nose. 24 hours prior to the incident. 24. The exact night before, we have these birds that are conducting this activity down along the border. They were searching for something. They were looking for something. Now, I watched flight data from several different nights throughout the week. Over all of last week. Didn't see anything close to this, not even remotely close to this, until I went back to the day we were supposed to be negotiating with Iran overseas. And that's where crap gets extremely interesting, because it wasn't just these random military flights and helicopters going over and checking the border. But on that particular day, we had several Apaches in conjunction with folks like this that were patrolling the border, and the Apaches were sitting back and they were loitering. Now, I don't know much about you guys. And if you know training about Apaches, hold on, I got to find the correct flight because it's very important. I want to make sure I have the correct flight and the correct details up on the screen. Where's my H-64? I have so many screenshots, ladies and gentlemen, because of the amount of crap that I tore through looking for this. It's insane. We'll go show you some other shady stuff in a minute here, too. I know I sent those to my friend. Let me grab those and pull them up. These Apaches were hovering overhead in that area. Let me see if I can get this date time group. That's 210. I don't even want to talk about that operation that was taking place there. So we're going to go back to last Friday, get that up on the screen, and see if I can't find this Apache real quick as we go to play. This is about 2 o'clock in the morning. All of this stuff that I noticed on this day was taking place. Again, this is when the day that we're supposed to be negotiating with Iran. And we have people that are patrolling the border. I'm going to bump the speed up quite a bit because what I'm actually looking for is not this helicopter down here, but it's several Apaches that actually come out and they start loitering over here in the background. That looks like the same medical flight taking off, going out of there. Nope. Yep. He's going to take off and go through. Now, eventually what you're going to end up seeing up here on the screen is you are going to see Apache helicopters in conjunction with people watching the border. So what'll happen is we have a bunch of aircraft that end up departing out of Biggs Army Airfield that come over here. And then throughout the day, we have Apaches that are coming out and loitering up over in this general vicinity. And I'm going to show you why I believe that's significant here in just a sec, as soon as the Apaches and everybody wants to come out to play. Because there is actually a ridge line. If you guys can see the Adine lava flow area or whatever the heck it is, that's like right here. The Apaches were hanging out just on this side. These are actually railroad tracks that come over. All right, so these are railroad tracks that come over right over here. And it's hanging out over by the railroad tracks. The only thing out there is a cattle ranch. But if the Apache was sitting down low enough as people are searching the border, that Apache is going to be hidden. And for the amount of time that Apache had spent loitering in that area, I have some very serious questions about what the heck it was doing over there. Again, I'm looking to find those particular messages, or not messages, looking to find those particular flights for you guys so that I can just jump right to it and get it up on the screen. But it will hit. Give it a second. It's going to hit. Yeah, here we go. All right. It looks like it is around 11 o'clock this day. So let me pause. I've got the gate time group, 1824. So we're just going to go up to the 1800 hour and let it play. And there you have your Apache that's over here loitering. You guys can see it. It's a AH-64. All right. This is, again, the same exact day that we're supposed to be meeting up with frickin' Iran with all of their crap, okay, overseas. And the interesting part, when you zoom in and you check out this Apache's flight pattern, and I'll maybe slow down the speed a little bit so it's not so crazy. This guy is just loitering over here by these tracks. He's still sitting at about 4,000 feet, all right, barometric altitude, but he's just loitering in this area, back and forth, just hanging out. I can show you guys what's on the ground over here, but it ain't that much, all right? Not at all. And eventually takes off and heads RTB, and he gets out of Dodge. Now, at the same time that he was doing that, let's go ahead and back that up. At the same time we have that Apache that's up there hanging around, we have all of these other helicopters that are down here on the border. Same EC-145s from the United States military out of Biggs. And they're down along the freaking border, and they're also searching that exact same NOTAM's area. The one that got put out yesterday outside of El Paso. So while we have these aircraft that are over here searching this area, you have an Apache helicopter loitering at 4,000 feet in the background. And ladies and gentlemen, like I said, this stuff took place like quite a bit over the course of this day. It wasn't just this one that I had noticed. All right, here you have this helicopter coming out, searching the border. He's now out here for not too long. And then our friend, the Apache, comes out. And this guy continues to search the border over and over. You guys will notice that there's a second one over here. This one is a freaking UH-60. So now we have a UH-60 that's coming down as well, joining in on this search. And all of this is the same day that we are supposed to be negotiating with Iran, trying to come up with something, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, Apaches, they are very, very good at doing, they were designed to hunt and kill tanks, right? Now, what I do know about Apaches, thanks to covering the war in Israel for so long, is that Israel ended up using those like Apache helicopters up on their northern border to protect against the drones that Hezbollah was flying over at them. And so they would have the Apaches come in and they would shoot down the drones with the Apaches. And here we have them searching the border while keeping an Apache hanging off in the far, far freaking distance. That's going to be out of line of sight of anybody at the freaking border, hidden behind a mountain range before they RTB and they go back. That to me is a little bit freaking suspect as I continue to look at this. I want to show you guys something else too. I want to go open. It's a lot more clear on Google Earth. All right. However, let me clear this out so that you guys don't see some of this other stuff. We're going to go over here and we're going to zoom in on the area to where all of this was going down at. Okay. Here you have Fort Bliss right down in this area. This is El Paso. Right. And then we have this area right here, which is where that helicopter was loitering. And as you guys saw, it was hanging out just kind of like south or near those railroad tracks. Well, these are the railroad tracks. Some of you guys might be thinking, well, maybe it's out there for a range. Maybe it's out there for something else. No, these are railroad tracks and they lead all the way down here when you follow them down to a main like transfer station for the trains. The only thing that's in that area where that Apache is hanging out, where'd it go, is a cattle ranch. Not too far away. For measured distance between point A and point B, cattle ranch about 5 miles away. And it's an active cattle ranch. You can actually like, oh, that's a substation. Where's it at? I found the cattle ranch yesterday. It's out here. I was also looking at different freaking imagery. Maybe this was it. Here she is. This is the cattle ranch, not the electrical substation. So that's the cattle ranch. Measure distance, point A to point B. Again, about 5 miles away. Let's clear that out. Important thing, you've got active railroad tracks that are going through there. You've got a mountain range that's hiding it. And then you've got an active cattle ranch. And when you zoom in on it, you can actually see the cattle, like the black dots that are on the ranch. You can actually see all their fecal matter and all that crap on the ground from where they just walk around and where they're at, right? So there's not an active military range that's out in this location, anything like that. That Apache is dangling itself up over on the backside of that freaking range, or I'm sorry, on the backside of that hilltop mountain range, providing likely cover for those birds that are down the border searching for something on the same day that we're supposed to be negotiating and speaking with Iran. And then we happen to have these attacks that take place yesterday, and they're trying to claim it's a weather balloon. And when we talk about what these things actually look like when they're flying through the sky, and you understand the technology behind it, and they didn't say weather balloon, they said party balloon. Isn't that what Fox News said? Let me drag Fox over here. U.S. military shot down a party balloon near El Paso after drone suspicion. Here's your technology. This is what it looks like. If you think it's a party balloon, you let me know. I need to go through some of these super chats. I want to know, start a poll. Do you think we shot down a balloon? I'm going to start the poll and I want you guys to run it. Leaving the tech up on the screen for what it looks like. Again, that's not the U.S. tech. Apparently, it's some sort of secret system. They literally said it was a party balloon. They may have been going after the substation. No, I actually believe I was able to identify what it is, and I'm not going to talk about what it is. I was up pretty late last night and I figured it out exactly, in my opinion, what it is they were going after. And in my opinion, there is a viable threat to what they were going after. And there's a reason things were very well protected that day. 92% of you so far, after seeing this, say, yeah, no, that's not a frickin' party balloon. There's no frickin' way. Incog Faraday says possibly scoping out a substation attack. I do not believe so. I don't. There was a much more significant target, I think, that they were after. Incog Faraday says, thanks for not charging us hourly for your research. Yeah, no kidding. Well, you guys, I mean, it's a lot of crap to pour over. Nova says lots of weird stuff in the sky lately. Night before last, there was a fireball seen in Ohio. Kentucky, India, Illinois, and Wisconsin. Yeah, I did hear something about like it was either satellites falling or freaking a meteor, if I remember right. Daniel Lyon says Iron Beam can down a Hermes 450 in about 2.5 seconds, but the technician who made the mistake got sent home even faster. Yeah, I mean, let's put it this way. When you look at the tech up on your screen and what it actually looked like for how these lasers work, and it makes sense because you got pinpoint accuracy tracking and all of that stuff. They got to be able to see exactly what they're shooting at. So one, that had been like, it looks like a balloon. They would have got a good freaking range on that sucker. They would have got a good feedback. They would have been able to see it. Second, these lasers are so damn powerful. The moment they hit the go button and just blasted that laser out of it, it would have popped. It wouldn't have just freaking, sat around and got burned and everything else. It just shot a hole straight through the dang thing. And I don't think it's a drug drone either. And I'm going to tell you guys why. I'm going to finish playing this statement up on here from a local.
Drones have wingspans estimated to be 6 feet or more.
Former police chief Chris Grooms told me they were getting 9 to 12 calls to 911 every single night, just in Valley County, Nebraska alone, for 6 weeks straight.
That's not what I wanted to bring up. That wasn't the clip I was looking for.
Ask yourself.
Excuse me. That wasn't the clip I was looking for. It was one that I was playing a little bit earlier. So give me a second here. Here we go. Let me finish this clip out.
Meantime, the mayor of El Paso says they were not alerted of the flight restrictions that led to the closure of their airport, saying it was all unnecessary. Take a listen.
This should have never happened. You cannot restrict airspace over a major city without coordinating with the city. That failure to communicate is unacceptable. There's probably been drones ever since they've been started flying in this community. So that's not nothing new.
So the people that are operating this system, again, allegedly yesterday it came out that we signed a memo that gave this freaking tech over to DHS at the beginning of last month. Or at sometime last month, like 30 days ago, we gave this tech over to them. Training, for crying out loud. The amount of training it would take just to learn the system and spin it up and so on and so forth. But what he just said, the mayor, he's an idiot. He's a goon. The government's not going to give him all sorts of blah, blah, blah information. But the key thing here is he's even recognizing that drones are extremely common. And cartel drones flying drugs over and dropping them off are extremely common. This has been happening for a very long period of time. So for the United States, the military or DHS, with all of these drones that we're constantly watching out for along the border, something made us want to shoot that down.
So a drone shutting down our airspace, we've got to get better than this.
Now, in response to the mayor's criticism, the White House telling News Nation, quote, the Trump administration will always act swiftly to safeguard America's national security. The FAA closed El Paso airspace in response to a cartel drone threat and swiftly lifted the airspace closure after the threat was neutralized. Now, the head of the TSA actually...
Statement from the White House. The FAA closed El Paso airspace in response to a cartel drone threat and swiftly lifted the airspace closure after the threat was neutralized, i.e., we blasted a freaking cartel drone. Suspected. It very well could have been Hezbollah. Adam DLC says if it was the cartel, we'd be in Mexico by now, Matt. Well, as I stated yesterday morning, as all of this was going on, that it most certainly appeared like the U.S. was gearing up to go do something inside of Mexico. And then we saw operations, got word of major operations that were taking place by the Mexican military over inside Mexico. Fox McCloud says, wouldn't the fact that a party balloon that trigger a NOTAM be a bad thing, a 25-cent party balloon? It would be a horrible thing. They want you to believe that the people that have been watching the border and dealing with all of these things for so long are so stupid that they saw a party balloon. Jay Dolan says, how much do you want to bet that there are weapons being stored in mosques here in America and probably the Leering Center in Somali Soda? I don't doubt it. STRC says, do you see they let the guy go that murdered the Ukrainian girl? I did not see that. Now I got to go watch it. Fox McCloud, you know it's top secret when they're telling you the exact weapon that they used. Well, I think what ended up happening is you have the officials that learned about it, that then spoke about it, and then that was that. So they learned about it, they spoke about it, and then they were like, oh crap, we shouldn't have said that. Because they didn't realize the implications of the United States being attacked across the border. Yes. Someone says Iran working with the cartel. Hezbollah working with the cartel is a real thing because of Maduro. Maduro was giving out diplomatic passports to members of Hezbollah and the IRGC. So it's possible that they use those diplomatic passports created by Maduro to go down into Mexico to do all of this crap. It is very possible. Curly haired, what do you think about the idea of the U.S. using the World War II? Oh, I already answered that one. All right, moving on here. Incog Faraday says, possible scoping out a substation attack. I do not believe so. And Silent Spring says, there are two air method helis in the air at the same time. Tail N87LF and N81-0LF on 211. On 26, the 60 and the EC-45 were both circling airports, El Paso International. Yeah, there is a lot of them, man. You are correct. And I've spotted those aircraft doing other things that we're not going to talk about right now. I am very curious to get an email back from the company to see if that aircraft that I spotted is even registered to them. Now, it's also possible, and this is the other thing, with that jump in date time standards on that aircraft that I showed you guys earlier, the medical evac helicopter, it's also possible, right, that they had radar scrambling that was going on at the time at that certain elevation and level, which is why it disappears, reappears, and it's got different times. So it's probably not just, and I want you guys to hear me on this, it's probably not just the fact that we had that laser that was out there. I'm trying to confirm through that company that that's their helicopter and their flight, and that they had a legitimate mission that they were flying, something legitimate that they were doing. Because the other thing that really ends up proving is that we had some radar jamming going on at the same time. If the flight data was altered, then that's another thing. But if we had radar jamming going on at the time, then that suggests that we not only thought that we were being attacked by frickin' drones, but we were also trying to jam the signals, etc., of those drones. When that radar jamming and crap like that goes off, that's when you get those frickin', variants and all of that crap. It is possible that they were launching FPV one-way suicide attack drones at the United States of America at specific targets. We took 140 something acres or 130 something acres from them just the day before and gave them a huge freaking warning. It is possible that it was the cartel. It's also possible that it was freaking Hezbollah. It's also possible that it was the IRGC trying to work things out with them. Keep this rolling.
Neutralized. Now, the head of the TSA actually just told Representative Tony Gonzalez during testimony that they were not alerted to the closure. The agency did not know about the airspace closure until after it happened. Now, another interesting piece here, Nicole, Fort Bliss, leaders there also were not alerted of this closure. Of course, Fort Bliss is that military installation that's in the El Paso area. So definitely some.
Fort Bliss was not notified of it. Well, again, the night before, almost 24 hours prior on the night before, we have two military helicopters that are trolling that border like it's nobody's business, that are going back and forth, searching all over the dang place.
Wires were not crossed there. Instead, they were left separate and were not informed of what was going on, Nicole.
And Allie, you have been reporting on these drones at the border for years. How sophisticated are they? What more do we know?
Yeah, they're only increasing in their capabilities and their sophistication, and they're actually weaponizing their drones as well. We've been reporting on this for months, for years here at News Nation. So the criminal cartels are actually strapping bombs onto drones, and they use them against rival cartels. This is happening mostly on the other side of the border. The drones they're using, they're even bigger than those little ones that you or I would use as well. At one point, they were using French agricultural drones to carry heavier loads like drugs or, yes, explosives. Now, the cartels are also reportedly using devices to interrupt or scramble devices on the U.S. side that are tracking the criminal organization's movements. And
So, Colin Wade says, as a former Intel analyst, I applaud your determination and use of open source information. Thank you for putting in the time to deliver a great product. Thank you very much, sir. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly hope it's a good product. Now, here's the deal. If they were drones like these that are dropping munitions and returning, that's one thing. I also talked about all of the other crap it could be. But we know what the tech looks like. We know that that laser had to have line of sight in order to shoot a freaking balloon, and that the freaking optics on that laser are top notch because it's got pinpoint accuracy with what it's doing, including tracking and everything else. And if it was a balloon, it would have been an instant pop. There would have been no narrative about it being a freaking drone. No, nothing.
we're not talking about just a handful here. We're talking about a lot of drones, Nicole, because a top general actually testified to the Senate last year that they're seeing 1,000 drone incursions from the Mexican cartels each and every month down here at the southern border. We're not talking
1,000 drone incursions at the southern border per month, according to officials. And you mean to tell me that we got freaked out by a balloon and shot a top secret laser at it? Absolutely not. That is the most absurd thing I've ever heard. Calling it a party balloon, calling it whatever the hell you want, is one of the dumbest freaking cover-ups. This is the worst cover-up I have ever seen in my life. One of the absolute worst cover-ups I've ever seen in my freaking life. I don't know what idiot put this together, but I would absolutely love to see verifiable, factual information of a balloon being shot. But at this point in time, I wouldn't put it past our government to go out and frickin' pop a frickin' party balloon, throw it on the ground, kick some dust over it, and take a picture of it, burn it up with a frickin' lighter, and claim that we ended up doing it. It's the most asinine thing I've ever heard of. This is beyond embarrassing for the United States. I don't know if the administration is trying to tell us that, wants to save the United States embarrassment when it goes down to, listen, we are so close to war with the cartel, or the IRGC and Hezbollah are right on our borders, so that's why we're holding off. We've got to get these threats under control. We've got to make sure the homeland is taken care of before we launch an attack on Iran. I have no idea, because the government won't tell us. But the fact they're calling it a balloon, in my opinion, is rather offensive to anybody with a tad bit of common sense about this technology and what's actually taking place on the ground. That Apache that I showed you guys, that was just sitting there and loitering this day, hanging out, loitering on the backside of that mountain, clearly looking like it's providing backup. And if that was 1 week ago and we're worried about that threat to the point where we had those aircraft that are going down patrolling the border and we send a freaking Apache out. And by the way, I saw this happen multiple times this day. I believe it wasn't just once. I believe it was multiple times. Here you have your Apache. I believe I saw this multiple times this day where it came over and was just loitering over there forever. I've got a feeling that a week ago, we had an active security threat. We did our best to frickin' mitigate it by having all of this crap out here. We've been searching for said threat, and we discovered that the best freaking response that we have right now is sending out a dang Apache while we have other U.S. military aircraft patrolling the border. And that would look really bad to be shooting frickin' hellfires at drones over the United States of America. So instead, they grabbed the military's laser, plopped it out in that frickin' area, and then waited And then when the active threat came, they shot it down. And then they discovered maybe this is a little bit more than we can talk about. Maybe it might be Hezbollah. Maybe it might be this. Let's blame it on the cartel, and then let's call it a freaking balloon, and then blame it on DHS. And let's just say we gave them permission to use this silly little laser last month. Why wouldn't you do that? That makes sense to me. Because 1 week prior to all of this taking place, 1 week prior to all of this going down, the same day that we're negotiating with Iran, we've got concerns about those security threats. We're sending out Apaches that definitely appear as if they're flying cover for freaking other U.S. military aircraft that are searching the border. And it's loitering for so damn long in that one space, and it didn't do anything else. It just took off, and it literally would go back and forth and fly to this location. You guys can see it. It wasn't out like over at any of the ranges. It wasn't doing anything. It took off, it loitered over here, and then it went back after they finished clearing the freaking border. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't tell you how freaking astonished I am at how our government feels. 681 of you guys have voted so far. Do you think we shot down a balloon? 13% of you think that we are that dumb and we shot down a balloon. By the way, here's the Apache going back over. I told you. Kept doing it. There's your Apache going back over. Here's those same helicopters down here searching the border with the Apaches loitering. If I rewind the clock, what the hell is this thing again? Yep. Northrop T-38 Talon, just doing test flights, doing whatever, circling around. But we've got our Apaches in loiter, going back out, while we have aircraft searching the border. Anybody? Anybody at all? Anybody want to tell me why these helicopters are coming down doing all this crap? I believe I hit the nail on the head here, that we had an active security threat. I believe that we were aware of it last week. We were trying to intercept it with the Apaches if it did in fact come across the border. It didn't. We stood down, and then we ended up moving that stupid laser over there, and then we ended up intercepting the threat yesterday, lied about it because it either could be Iran, it could be Hezbollah, it could be the cartel. I don't freaking know, but either way, they've got the tech, ladies and gentlemen, and it's troublesome to me that they think we're stupid and they think otherwise. So I hope you guys learned something today. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'm going to leave you guys on the reminder of what exactly that tech looks like. Peace, love, happiness, and God bless. It wasn't a balloon. Epstein didn't kill himself. See you this evening.